Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Cycles of Time. It is a dark and stormy night here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Thunder right overhead and clouds bursting open to just deluge water all over this dusty desert, and it feels really good. It is late at night when I'm recording, and the lightning is just flashing and popping, and it feels like a really perfect time to record this week's episode for July 1st to 7th, 2024. It is the week of provocation, the gate of provocation, and it is a new moon in Cancer. And the feels are on the table right now. It's like I've been crying all week. I don't know about you, but Cancer season has hit with a punch to the gut, the stomach, the part of the body that's ruled by Cancer. But it's been so good. I think sometimes I see emotional weeks come up, or weeks that might feel tense, and I'm like, oh cool, well, it's gonna pass soon. That will pass. But this week of, the last week of stillness, I really leaned into stillness and every motion and feeling that comes up with stillness, which tends to be a lot. If you've been in the busy whirlwind, when you slow it down, it's like, whoa, what's gonna rise to the surface? But it's, had a lot rise. And so feeling the sky mimic my own personal feelings and just let it rip and let it loose and have a little bit of drama with it as well. It's kind of just felt really nice, I have to say. So yeah, this project is where I'm experimenting with feeling the changes of the seasons deeper in my body and sharing some of these insights with all of you listeners out there. And so I really appreciate you holding this space for me as I hopefully give you some things to ponder and contemplate and think about. And I really appreciate all of your feedback and comments and just resonations with the moment at hand as well. So please keep those coming. Last week, in the Gate of Stillness, the first full week of Cancer season, I got a few messages from folks about how challenging the arrival of the season of the crab was for them. One listener noted that they have lots of Gemini and Sagittarius placements and lots of fire and air in their chart. And these are signs about knowledge and wisdom and the mind. And so the transition into the realm of the body, which is what Cancer rules, being ruled by the moon, and the moon being the ruler of the body. Cancer season plus the Gate of Stillness, which is the first full gate of Cancer season each year. This transition felt extremely uncomfortable for them, and I appreciated this listener's vulnerability in sharing that. And I got several messages that were kind of on par, and I was, I think when I received them earlier in the week last week, I was feeling kind of okay, like, oh yeah, it feels like midsummer, but I was still very in my mind. And as the week progressed, let me tell you, it just, the clouds erupted. I will say that much. And the discomfort of feeling so much was definitely palpable for me, who is also a heavy fire and air and earth person, very little of this watery energy in my natal chart. So I'd have to say that this shift between Gemini season and Cancer season for me has felt really dramatic. And on the world stage, that presidential debate happening right in here, with all these feels of Cancer season was, has brought a lot to the table in the past couple of days already, as far as like the drama, and what's at stake right now. And, I think it's interesting how much drama there is in this season, regardless of the politics, because, we're going from a summerish month to a deeper summer month, and it's not like a change of season per se. The solstice began, and that begins summer in earnest, but it, feels like through May, at least where I am, it felt like summer already in early June, but getting into this deeper part of June and into July, into Cancer season, it goes from hot to hotter. And I think that, Gemini season has this kind of like, it's nice and hot. Let's go swimming. Let's go to the pool. This is great. It's been, cold winter. Let's get out. And then Cancer season arrives, and it's kind of like, close the doors. You're letting the heat in. Like, the hot becomes oppressive fairly suddenly. And it kind of just feels like that is the drama that comes up in this season. So I'm curious to hear how the Gate of Stillness showed up for you last week. I took the assignment seriously, as I'm tending to do here. And if I was ever torn about what to do in a given time frame last week, I was reminded that we're in the Gate of Stillness. This is, be still like a crab waiting between the water and the land, just kind of waiting on what to do. And stillness is a gift, right? So if I ever had a choice of, what I should be doing, I tended to err on the side of stillness and napping and taking strolls in nature by myself, or doing the slow yoga class instead of the hot and intense yoga class, just kind of being as still as I could in the actions that I was doing throughout the week. My partner was out of town for the whole week, backpacking in the mountains, in that week of mountain over mountain. And my daughter was in summer camp until 3 every day. So for the first time in a while, I got some really serious alone time. And it felt really, really good to be in this Cancerian shift and Gate of Stillness, and be in my own body, my own feels, my own time frame. In my chart, Cancer falls in my 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of spirituality and the unity of everything, and kind of blurring the lines and surrender. And so I was definitely in that mood all of a sudden, and it felt really good. Like stillness and inaction were perfect for my mood. And also emotional, because stillness does have a way of bringing up all the emotions. And I definitely waded through a lot of feelings this week, and really noticed how it took my all to not try to distract myself with busyness or with just some activity, mental chatter or task. And so it's been really helpful to have this reminder of this word stillness, or mountain over mountain image during this time where I probably would have had all this stuff come up, but it's possible that without that word to reflect on, or this idea to contemplate, it would have just turned into covering it all up and getting, swept away in the fray of summer. So yeah, I definitely leaned into feeling the feelings because I was alone, and it was really very hot where I was. So, there was like sweat collecting on my brow, even inside the house last week. And it was like almost too hot to move too quickly to distract myself. And so that made me think about why, in a seasonal way, maybe why Cancer is known as such an emotional sign. It's just like in the summer, in the depth of summer, it's really sometimes too hot. It's like the hottest time of year, and it's too hot to just like move quickly from one thing to the next. You have to sit with the feelings and sit with the things that come up as they come up, and you can scuttle away a little bit, but ultimately you have to kind of scuttle back to your resting spot. So, a lot of the feelings coming up for me were about motherhood and parenting and just all the choices and decisions and for wanting the best for a child, but also being like, oh, wow, this is bringing up a lot about my childhood and about how I was nurtured and raised in my schooling and my environment, and just the sensitivity to all of those things through the lens of a child. And, body image was another thing that was kind of coming up more than I expected. And I feel like all of these things are such Cancerian themes: motherhood and body and nurturing, and all of the things that were really affecting me at that emotional level over the course of the past week. And they haven't gone away, but, it was really potent at a certain point and in this first week of Cancer season. So it was really great to reflect on it through that lens. It was one of those do nothing, feel everything weeks, and I'm grateful for it. So as we begin this week, we're moving from the gate of inaction and stillness to provocation and dynamic creativity, which are both, if you think about it, those are both potential reactions to the do nothing, feel everything vibes of last week. It's like provocation, kind of jumping out of that and feeling like I gotta rock the boat, shake it up a little bit, or just being more creative with how we do that. So this week we have a new moon in Cancer on the 5th, on Friday, and we are in gate 39, gate of provocation, from yesterday, June 30th, until July 6th. And the themes of this week are provocation equals growth, evolution through turning toward emotional responses, and planting seeds relating to the part of your chart that contains Cancer. In the Wheel of the Year, we are in the south, deep fire and youth in the medicine wheel in the direction of south. In the whooshing cycle, we're in the element of fire. We are in the pagan season of Litha, which was midsummer that just happened a couple weeks ago. The zodiac season of Cancer, just the beginning of that until July 20th. And we're in a new moon in Cancer phase of the moon. So we'll get started with the Human Design Gate 39, the gate of provocation, which is also known as obstruction in the I Ching. And I think as we deepen into Cancer season and enter this gate, it's also known as temporary obstacles. Maybe not what you want to hear, especially if you felt like I felt last week in the stillness, like, oh my God, so like feeling the sweat budding on my forehead and just like almost this trapped, suffocating kind of feeling. But like the provocation that comes out of that focuses on more feelings, like the feelings that come out of the feelings once you stop to listen to them. And it focuses on themes of challenge, provocation, and evolution through triggering emotional responses in others and noticing how emotional responses are being triggered in us. And so, after a week of stillness, restraint, and the stress that may have come with that, the energy this week is a reaction or a response to how that energy felt for us. And this is the case as we move through these micro seasons. Often the gate that comes after another gate is a response to it, as it would be, right? And so, to the people who felt uncomfortable or stuck or trapped in that gate of stillness last week, it's pretty natural to react to that feeling by lashing out. Like, you're a caged animal or a crab in a shell, like a hermit crab in a shell that it's grown out of. It's like you feel this stuckness or this trappedness, and the tendency is to get angry and thrash around, and it's like letting the heat and the stillness build up to a trigger point, and then it's like, you're provoked and you're provoking others, right? I think it's really interesting to have this gate in the heat of the summer again. When I lived in New Orleans for almost a decade, I remember hearing, it was just like kind of common knowledge on the street that the homicide rate would increase significantly in the middle of the summer. And studies have shown that there's correlations between summer heat and violent crime, including, all kinds of different violent crime. And in 2022, I read a statistic that in 2022, 278 mass shootings occurred in the summer months between June and September. And that made up 86% of all of the shootings that happened in 2022. So it's been studied, that heat can cause aggression because of rising body temperatures, increasing heart rate and blood pressure, and just general discomfort in that kind of hot, stagnant air. It's like we're not meant to live in the type of heat that we're experiencing in the world right now. But I think researchers attribute the correlation between hotness and increased anger. And it makes sense in the body. And with more people spending more time outside and kids out of school and, just like more activity on the street, there's definitely a connection between increased crime rates happening when a lot of people are feeling the heat. And I remember I was in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina was approaching, and I remember I've never felt that kind of heat. And I remember eventually leaving and going to North Carolina and kind of watching everything, the levees break from the TV screen at a farm that I was staying at, a friend's farm in North Carolina, and really having this understanding that you couldn't get through watching on TV, that like everything that I was seeing happening, the desperation and the kind of just on edgeness that was being witnessed post storm and post, levees breaking was, the heat was so intense and there was no respite from it at that point. And I remember just having this deep empathy for people that were there, like beyond what I could have imagined if I hadn't been there immediately before, because it was just so much, and just this kind of like needing to resolve that somehow. So I digress a little bit. I'm sorry for that tangent, but it's, just reminding me, right, there's been a lot in the news lately about global warming, and I don't even want to call it climate change because that feels like it doesn't capture what's really going on. It kind of minimizes it into like a scientific kind of generic term. And global warming used to be the way that we talked about the climate changes that are happening. And of course, it's not all warming, but in general, it is global warming. And this provocation from the heat in the middle of summer is really increasing as global warming worsens. I'm sure a lot of you heard about the 1,300 pilgrims in Saudi Arabia who died during the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, recently, and temperatures were up to like 50 degrees Celsius. And this summer we've seen Delhi in India enduring like 40 days above 40 degrees Celsius in just May and June. And it's just, there's so much heat right now. It's devastating and provoking. It's just like, yeah, what do we do? You just want to like lash out, and then you can't do anything about it, and then you just want to lash out even more. So, I'll kind of stop that there. We don't need to go too much deeper into it, but just trying to convey the feeling of the heat of summer and the stillness into provocation, like what that feels like. I think it's interesting that the 4th of July falls in the week of provocation each year, the Independence Day of America, Revolutionary War, and fireworks, and USA. And it's like, feels just so appropriate, the gate of provocation and the celebration of independence with fireworks, explosions. So, fireworks are banned in New Mexico this year on a large scale because of drought and potential forest fires. But they're, still selling them at various places, and they're still going to be around. And so, it's definitely an outlet, like, to burst out of our shells in the heat of this season. So it feels very relevant. I think of, when I'm thinking about all of this seasonal relation to this I Ching gate and Cancer season at large, I think of heat waves kind of rising off of a beach to reveal 2 crabs battling with their giant claws. And it's really easy to see the word provocation aligned with the crab. Crabs fighting to protect their territory and impress potential mates. And, crabs have built-in claws and armor. And so they're, gonna fight. But, the thing about crabs too is that they know when to retreat and when to sidestep and when to shed their shells and find new ones. And crabs have a strategy of adaptation. And there are many ways to react to feelings that are coming up for all of us this Cancer season, including sidestepping, including adapting, being creative, including finding a new type of shell, a new type of home container for the feelings that are no longer appropriate. I don't feel like they've served their purpose. It's now time to let them go and find a new shape. So there's lots of ways beyond the using of the claws and straight up fighting and poking to adapt. And so I think it's interesting to think about provocation in that way. In the gene keys, the progression of gate 39 goes from the shadow of provocation at its lowest frequency to the gift of dynamism to the city of liberation. And when we're confronted with discomfort or we're feeling trapped in something that's not right for us, snapping and popping off is definitely one way to go. I definitely, over the course of the last week, in addition to my stillness, I was feeling this, provocation kind of reaching a tipping point with my 5-year-old, just like straight up ignoring me and having no concept of time when we have to go somewhere. And I'll be fine with it for a while, kind of going with the flow, like coaxing and negotiating. And then something inside me gets like so triggered because I feel stuck, like I can't move and I'm not getting any response. And I don't want to fight. I don't want to be physical. I don't want to lash out. But it's like, when you can feel that sensation building inside your body, it's fascinating to just go from a still point to like an instant, just like eruption or explosion. And I don't do that. I really try not to, but working with other creative ways of manifesting that feeling. I think that, if we can release the energy of feeling too still or stuck in other ways before the pressure builds beneath the surface, there's this potential, this beautiful potential to be dynamic and creative and inspiring and liberated ultimately. It's like on one end we have being provoked and provoking, and on the other end we have liberation from a situation that was stuck, right? In his book, The 64 Ways, Richard Rudd, who's the author of The Gene Keys, says that the 39th gift is all about unlocking freedom at all levels. And it says these people are either utterly locked or they're great unlockers and unblockers. Once they've learned the art, they become expert at helping others. They can apply this gift into any field we can imagine because ultimately they know how to release stagnant energy through a system. They're very valuable people. So I love that notion of, rather than popping off, releasing stagnant energy through a system. And that can be expressed as dynamic creativity. In the I Ching, the hexagram is water over mountain for hexagram 39. We're coming out of mountain over mountain, that stillness of mountain over mountain, into water over mountain. And when I think about that visual, I see a kind of dynamic flow of a river carving through even the hardest rock of the mountain. And that water can move and shape things that may otherwise seem unmovable and unshakable. And it's in that creative dynamism and fluidity to get out of the stuckness that there is success. So at the enlightened level of the siddhi, the gate is responsible for liberating us from thought patterns and habits that are keeping us in victimhood and in shame and in blame. So when the sun's transiting through this gate, or if it's your birthday this week, or if you have a planet in gate 39 in your chart, part of your energy is going to be to provoke and to stimulate change by challenging existing norms and perspectives and emotional states. And this provoking can catalyze new ways of thinking and feeling in the world at large. So at the highest frequency, this gate 39, allows us to stand firm in our beliefs of something better, even when others project their fear onto us. As a Cancer gate, gate 39 knows that when they provoke someone to kind of come out of their rut or pokes them out of their comfort zone, the person who's doing the provoking will be the first person that provoked person encounters, kind of the first line of defense, and the first person to be projected upon by the person coming out of their conditioned ways of being. So, with this provocation and this kind of gift and skill of shaking things up and moving beyond the kind of status quo, there's also this Cancerian notion of being, caring and nurturing and having a deep knowing that in provocation, even if the provocation is ultimately for the best and benefit of another person, and for an expanded state of love and acceptance, it's important to know the consequences of what comes with that provocation as well. And so there's a lot to think about there. What do you think about when you think about the word provoking or provocation? And how does that relate to liberation? And how do we create new realities and also tend to the deep feelings that come up when a system is being kind of reconfigured? There's so much power in this time and so much power in this gate. And as we know, that power can be used for, explosions, and it can also be used for catalysts. And so just pondering this week, what does it feel like to go from a point of stillness to a point of radical change for you? Moving on a little bit to the new moon in Cancer. On Friday, July 5th, the moon is meeting the sun in the sign of Cancer. And that is ruled by the moon. Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon here is at home, and that makes it a perfect time to plant seeds and set manifestations in the area of your chart that contains Cancer. And the moon and the sun are both in the gate of provocation here as well. So everything I just mentioned about provocation and liberation and dynamism are contained in this full moon, or this new moon energy as well, with both the sun and the moon here. And so this moon will highlight the nurturing and caring themes of Cancer, but it will kind of do so through the lens of provoking and dynamic action. So thinking about nurturing not just being like, petting a head or like patting a back, or, like holding a space, for instance. Those are wonderful ways to nurture, but also knowing that like nurturance can also be challenging someone to be the best version of themselves in a gentle and kind way, in a way that sees the whole person and isn't trying to force them to be something else. But, I think it's one of the most nurturing things to really look at someone and see them and call them in rather than call them out. So that seems like a very big new moon vibes. It's like, how can we start a new chapter? So how can we start a new lunar month with this new dark sky, new moon, seed planting moon, and plant seeds of nurturing in different ways, like provoking and changing things up. It's like there's a lot of new beginnings here. I think, it's going to come right on the heels of 4th of July. The new moon's the day after the 4th of July. And so, that energy of that holiday, regardless of if you care about the meaning behind it or not, there's a certain energy to having a holiday in the middle of summer, and the kind of mischievous and flirty and excitable energy that comes with it just naturally. So, I think one image that comes to mind when I think about this new moon and like the 4th of July Cancer new moon is like flirtily spritzing someone with a hose in the heat of the summer day when they were, complaining about being overheated. Like, oh man, it's so hot out here. Like, I wish it wasn't so hot, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the hose, you're watering the plants, and you just squirt them with it. And that's provoking, right? It's like, they might freak out for a moment. It might feel really good, but also just be like, hey, what the hell? Why'd you do that? And, but as you like feel it dries off, evaporates, feel cooler, and, that they might actually appreciate what you did for them. And it could even start the best neighborhood water fight that there ever was, and gets everybody out of their shells and into a playful state of mind. Like, you never know what that provocation might do. And, it's like you're not squirting somebody who's shivering in the corner, but you're spritzing somebody who's knows that they're hot, but they just want to complain about it rather than do something about it. So that's my little setting the scene of how this shows up right now. So yeah, by, you're kindly provoking and then also holding space for whatever emotions come up from that provocation. And, in that way, it's possible to, in that dynamic way, it's possible to liberate people from a sticky and hot and stagnant place. So this week, be mindful of your tendency to be provoked or your desire to provoke others, especially on this new moon. And, recognize that your follow through and care is needed after any provocation in this season of the heat, and just continue to take care of yourself. There's a lot of feels swirling around, and on the collective level, on personal levels. So take care and play a little bit as well. So that's what I would say. That's what I'm going to try to do. That's the assignment for the week ahead. I'm glad to be getting out of the stillness without it feeling like I have to burst all the walls down. And there's a little bit more creativity in there, even just by recording this and hearing the words that I'm saying. Sometimes I don't know what's going to come out. So I appreciate you all, as usual, for listening. Again, all of your shares and comments and engagement mean a lot. The community, as it builds, feels really good. So follow me on Instagram at Cycles of Time Podcast or astro.somatics. And you can subscribe to the Substack to get this in your inbox every Monday at astrosomatics.substack.com. So thanks for listening. Have a lovely new moon, 4th of July, midsummer week, hopefully with some fun water fights. And I'll see you again soon.